Red Moon Roleplaying, in association with the Adventure Hook podcast, proudly present a Black Spire Studios rendition of the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition classic Planescape adventure, To Baator and Back, which we've subtitled, Hell is Other People. This episode contains themes and situations that may be offensive to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings. My name is Craig Austin of Red Moon Roleplaying, but tonight I am Virgil St. Frostkiss, the Inquisitor. To Baator and Back, Episode 6. The Sins of the Father and His Prodigal Son. From a very early age, I was taught by my father, Horatio, that all one needs to do is listen and observe a person long enough, and eventually they will tell you exactly who they are and what they desire. Then all you need to do is convince them that's something you can provide. Horatio Harper held 100 jobs. He was always on the move. He'd been a travelling peddler, haberdasher, apothecary, alchemist, appraiser, small-time fence, poet, playwright, acting troupe director, pardoner, indulgencer, and worse. Regardless, my father was always practicing his original profession, that of a confidence man. He'd always somehow find a way to make me the centerpiece of his latest scam. Most of my youth was spent on the back of a wagon as our family travelled from town to town, all over the kingdom of Navalon and the surrounding regions. My favourite memories were as a boy when we were making our way as a simple troupe of travelling acrobats. In those days I did cartwheels and somersaults for coppers, and even learned how to throw knives blindfolded. Sometimes I'd join my mother and we'd sing songs for our supper, as father would secretly enchant the crowd. Or I would pilfer coin purses while my parents acted out some famous love scene or another. Eventually my father found us an equally risky yet slightly more lucrative line of work: selling miracle cures to the ignorant. In Navalon, the people claim to hold all the gods of the heavens and the earth in equal regard. Yet, even here, the Church of Solaris, the sun god, has been greatly weakened in the many decades following the Bishop's Crusade, and it's much worse in the monotheistic theocracy of Solon to the west. And so where once the sun worshippers had offered healing services at nearly every single place of worship, no matter how humble, now only major cities could boast clerics with actual divine curative magic. And so instead, there were snake oil salesmen like my father, selling bogus curatives to take their place, especially in the more rural, less educated communities. Those settlements my father was very keen to prey on in particular. For while it seemed my father indeed had a limited skill in alchemy, he was secretly only a hedge wizard, and was technically practicing the arcane arts illegally outside the authority of the Academy of War Magic. Occasionally my father would also use various magical charms and incantations to influence in his favour the attitudes of not quite gullible enough rubes, or other sorts of potential customers with overly tight purse strings, at least until after the transaction was made. Sometimes my father would just cheat people out of their money. Sometimes his concoctions would actually make people sick. But one way or another, we'd worn out our welcome, or been flat run out of nearly every town, city, and village in the kingdom of Navalon by the time I'd reached my early teens. By then, the capital city of Drakesmark was offering a meager bounty for the charlatan Horatio Harper, and even the dwarves of Khazad-dûr to the north knew better than to let a phony brewer like him in through the gates of light. For some reason, my father seemed content to make a living of making a mockery of those with real actual content with the divine, especially the healing powers of the clerics of Solaris. For many people, Solaris represents all that is good in the world. Joy, conviction, medicine, art, education, society, order, and especially truth. Wherever there is good, that is the light of Solaris. Whenever the light is absent, that is the darkness of Nerf, the Black Sun, who represents the opposite of these things, and who the Church of Solaris claims the source of all arcane magic. Even the metallic dragons worship the sun, and some, like the Papal Dragon Guard, will even fly the paladins of the bureaucracy into battle.
Any one of whom would roast you at the stake quick as skewered pheasant if they knew you were an elfkin hedge wizard,
my father would scold, mockingly. However, where my father was large and abrasive, my mother Vanel was quiet and demure. Where my father was stubborn, my mother was forgiving.
A good boy obeys his parents in all things,
she would say. Especially when I began to rebel against my father's latest money-making scheme. And there never seemed to be enough money for the things we probably should have had. For where my father indulged in many worldly appetites, mother seemed content to just take in the beauty of the world. And she was beautiful too. Her long pointed ears, showing the high elf blood hiding in her veins. And in my youth at least, I too had pointed ears, just like my elfkin mother. This fate-touched ancestry, coupled with my father's instruction, was how I first unlocked the innate magical potential in my own blood. And soon I could even replicate my father's crowd-winning incantation, a skill which naturally he began to take advantage of immediately. And for the first time I was also made to wonder if wielding arcane magic meant I was now touched by the Black Sun. When I was old enough, however, my mother gifted me with an heirloom that had been in our family for, she claimed, thousands of years. It was a suit of elven chain, woven out of incredibly fine links of the silverite metal known as mithril, and it proved to be so light that I could wear it almost invisibly beneath any layer of clothing. It proved to be so unencumbering that I could wear it and still cast my magic freely. I could even sleep in it. She made me promise to always wear it for protection, but always keep it a secret. And in doing so, when I needed it most, it would protect me. Now, my father made no secret of his dislike for the academy-trained royal wizards, and the oppression, he claimed, hedge wizards like us had suffered at their hands. But whenever I would express an interest in the divine spellcasting abilities of the Solaran clerics, he'd grow visibly upset. And so, during that terrible winter when Mother fell deathly ill, and even though none of my father's own medicines proved to be any help at all, there was still nothing I could do to convince him to call upon the Sun Worshipper's powers to cure her. In the end, I even defied my father, and rode the family pony to the nearest chapter house of the Dragon Knights to beg them for help. And while I was eventually able to convince their youngest paladin, who was on his first laying of hands pilgrimage, to return with me to our family wagon, by the time we'd returned, Mother had passed.
A pity,
The knight said.
It would have been a simple matter to cure her affliction. If only I had arrived a few hours sooner.
In my grief, I confess I don't remember what actually occurred between the knight and my father. But he barely even spared a few hours for a rushed burial, before he was insisting that it was time the two of us finally left the kingdom. Though prospects were limited in that regard, it was ultimately decided that we would make a new life for ourselves in the ferocracy of Solon, the center of sun worship on Terragastia, and home to the king-priest Pope Azellus XV, who dwells in the dragon-guarded White Cathedral within the holy city of Solon itself. However, the ferocracy would be even less forgiving of a couple of hedge wizards than the Navalonians were if we were found out, and Zellus the 14th had unfortunately excommunicated all the Solarian elves of the theocracy for refusing to participate in the Third Bishop's Crusade. This of course meant something was going to have to be done about my elfkin ears. And so one night, my father cut off the tips of both my ears with a conjured knife made of ice. And then, to complete the illusion, he also took the pinky and first ring finger of my left hand as well. I was told, if I were ever asked about it, to lie and say that as a child, our family got snowed in on a mountain pass on our way to the Gravetree Carnival. And sadly, an overnight frostbite robbed me of those parts. Those icy cuts still carry a sharp twinge of bitterness for me, even to this day. But I must admit that while living in the theocracy, hiding my elfkin blood did bring about certain advantages. My father tried a whole host of new and different theatrical schemes all over the theocracy, but the only endeavor he proved to have consistent success with was to grow fatter by the season. After Mother's death, my father began indulging in all manner of rich foods. But in less than 2 years, his gout had worsened to the point to where he could barely even leave the wagon anymore, conducting all his business from the window next to his bunk, and literally eating up most of our profits. Even in immense pain, my father may have been too proud to seek out clerical aid, but that certainly did not stop him from tasking me with emptying his fine porcelain chamber pot of his vile-smelling night soil every morning. Each vile morning, that was, till the one when my father was finally unable to get out of the bed on his own. And in his agony, he finally begged me to take him to the local Solarian temple. This was the day where I first truly debated the nature of justice on a spiritual level. Did my father deserve the blessings of a faith he rejected? Was he deserving of the same aid he denied my mother, which ultimately cost her her life? Was it even my place to decide such an outcome? In the end, I brought my father to the local temple, and after giving him a thorough examining, I was told by one of the clerics that his disease of gout was self-afflicted, not one of providence, and so even if he were to be cured, no doubt the affliction would return in time. And without missing a beat, the priest informed me that he did not truly believe my father was capable of changing his ways, unless I, as his son, had reason to suspect otherwise. I knew I could use my magic to temporarily convince this priest that my father actually could change his ways. But that felt like a lie, and I was weary of lies. This Solaran's cleric's truths about my father were harsh, but honest. And to me, that severity was somehow refreshing. It felt like justice. So instead, a few weeks later, after he finally succumbed to his afflictions, I laid my father to rest in a shallow pauper's grave. The church considers the entire theocracy of Solon to be sanctified ground, so it actually proves somewhat difficult to bury my father in a graveyard regularly reserved for criminals, apostates, heretics, and the excommunicated. It's what I believe he would have wanted. And of all his worldly possessions, the only item Horatio Harper was buried with was his precious porcelain chamber pot, which I may or may not have bothered to empty one last time. But somehow, impossibly, here, now, in this hellish place, beneath this pillar of rotting heads, things appear to have come full circle once again. For it is here that I've finally been reunited with my long-deceased father. Now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I am certain this place truly is hell. And once more, thanks to the sins of my father, I am again blessed to bear witness to justice's swift work in the universe.
Silence hangs in the air as the Inquisitor stands stunned, listening to the final exchanges from his father, his pleading father, whose head makes up one of the countless hundreds, if not thousands, of rotting skulls that comprise this pillar. What does the Inquisitor do?
My boy, bring me a fiend, my boy.
Quiet, father. I'm afraid we're going to be going now.
You can't leave me like this, my boy. Not like this.
On the contrary, I can, father. You deserve to be here, and I lean down. And I don't say this with malice or hatred. It's more just disappointment, really, in my tone. You lied to me even in death. You lied to me again. Couldn't even tell the truth to your son once, could you?
I can tell you the truth now, my boy, for you are exactly like me.
On the contrary, we're nothing alike. Unlike you, I
Oh,
dedicated
no.
my life to doing things for others and trying to make the world a better place, unlike yourself, who only cared about himself and his own desires and wants.
Finat laughs when he hears the Inquisitor say he tried to make the world a better place.
Says you can tell yourself whatever you like, my boy, but the truth is that you follow a religion that would condemn you if they knew the truth about you. In fact, the only reason they accepted you is because you hid your true nature from them, didn't you, my boy? At the end of the day, you are not an Inquisitor. You're simply the elfkin hedge wizard you always were, just like your mother.
I look between them and I look utterly confused. And what's funny? Are we getting some more information here?
No.
Well, I believe that they're speaking in Elvish, right?
Yes.
However, I do know there are some members of this party who also speak
Finnish, yes.
Yeah.
I say in common, so don't worry, Dante, we're heading off now. And I begin to turn, and just before I turn fully, I remark, no, father, I don't hate you. I merely pity you. Farewell. I do not believe we shall ever meet again.
No, my boy, you can't leave me here! You can't leave me here!
And I look at Finnet briefly, and motion to all the others. Come, we need to go to this Avernus road and find us a brick.
Yes. Agreed, Sir Milton says. Agreed.
So you turn your back to this place and leave?
I do.
I hold up the map and I point at it to show everyone. May I suggest that we just perhaps take the river down until this little offshoot. If that road is the road leading up to the castle, is that the one?
Perhaps.
How will we know which one is the Avernus road?
I say to Dante, I believe it's this main road you see here near the city. Or the picture of this city, anyway. I believe that is the Avernus Road. Is that not right, Filton? I expect this road to be a grand road, and this is the only grand road I see.
Do I have any idea of the Avernus Road?
You all... No. I mean, you all have the same map, and that's about it.
Okay. Yeah. I would, I'm under the same assumption as our, what did your father call you? Hedge wizard? That must be the Avernus Road. And I kind of stare daggers at Frostkiss now that I have an inkling of his hypocrisy.
Okay, good.
Can I make a spellcraft check to, can I make a real quick spellcraft check to, define the term hedge wizard?
Oh, sure. No, you would know that word. You wouldn't need to make.
Oh, it would.
A hedge wizard is sort of it's a sort of a catch-all term for any wizard practicing, or any person practicing magic, really, who is not academy trained. Essentially, especially in the kingdom of Navulon, at least, like in the theocracy of Solon, for instance. Arcane magic is considered heretical, and is not practiced at all. And those, for instance, who might have magic in their blood, say a half-elf, for instance, would also be frowned upon, particularly because at one point in the generally semi-near history, the Church of Solaris excommunicated all the elves, at least all the sun-worshipping elves, who refused to go on the Third Bishop's Crusade, but that's a little history that doesn't matter right now. The other thing I would say is that in Navulon, though, if you are an academy wizard, it's kind of the only legal way to learn and to be a practitioner of magic. Otherwise, you're fair game for the Inquisition. Men just like Frostkiss.
Yes, I believe that we should be on our way.
We shall. It certainly looks like that is the brick road, I say, pointing to it. It must be.
Then may I suggest we go along the river Styx until we reach this little offshoot, going towards it, and perhaps see if we can paddle up there?
Acceptable. Yes.
Very well. So you will be returning to the river, then?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I assume we're going to try to do a due south kind of path, not actually... Or are we going to take the raft back? Are we going to go back and get back on the raft that we created?
Yes,
It should be faster.
I think that is one way to do it, at least.
Okay, so you'll return to the river and look for the raft. Okay, that's fine. The men will all fall in ranks, basically at both sides of you. There are still, ironically enough, it's strange. After all the torments and hardships and just horrific sights of this place, this plane of Baator, this level of Avernus, it's a strange comfort in a strange sort of way that some of the men are still coughing from the cold they caught back on your homeworld.
I too am reminded by this and cough, yes. Yes, I'd almost forgotten. Damn this cold.
Indeed.
I am pensive and silent on the journey. I have not acknowledged Filton once with his words. The only person I share a glance with occasionally would be Sir Milton.
Very well. How about Dante? Are you silent as well?
Yes, well, rather. I'm very uncomfortable, not from having a cold, but it's just so hot and all these dry winds and stuff in the air. I've been sweating for quite a while now. I'm feeling a bit dehydrated. It's just hell, basically.
Yes, it is. Literally and figuratively. And in truth, I should actually be making you all roll another constitution check against the exhaustion. At this point, time is very difficult to measure when you're here because there's no passage of the sun, there's no night, there's no day. It's all just this endless, timeless torment. But you know you're coming up on being here for almost a full day. Now, you've easily been awake for 12, 16 hours maybe. Again, it's tough to tell, but everyone is exhausted, everyone is dehydrated, everyone is hungry.
At one point, I will look over and remark to Finnet. I will admit one thing. You could very easily have betrayed us all there. And yet you didn't. I am surprised.
I am not a betrayer. As it seems you are.
I smirk a little.
I do not operate off of hypocrisies. I am who I am, and I do what I must. No more, no less. I am no murderer. I have never tortured or tormented. I have only ever acted self-preservation and self-defense.
I smirk a little, remarking, you do have no idea what you're talking about, but fair enough. Whatever makes you comfortable. All I'll say is we cannot choose our birth, but we can choose who we become.
It seems you've chosen.
Indeed I have.
Very well. You have left the Pillar of Skulls behind you, making your way back down this gentle slope towards the cul-de-sac of the river Styx, this bloody, stinking, wine-colored river. And as you begin your approach, where you can now smell blood and even hear the running of the water, you are greeted with the sound of the men letting out a cry of despair, for your raft seems to be missing.
I sigh that I should have expected as much. We put no guard on it, and there's many creatures lurking around here, and certainly a raft be something that many can find use of.
I suppose. But I thought it would be enough that we pulled it up on the shore.
Well, yes, you definitely pulled it up on the shore. It should not have just been swept away by the current. Although, Dante, your eyesight is keen enough. After a moment or two, you actually believe that you spot your raft. It's probably a few dozen feet into the river, starting to be swept underneath it, caught on some rocks.
Do I see this as well?
If Dante points it out to you, you will. He's the first to see it.
Yes, I see it. Huh, it seems to be out in the river again. Strange. Well, something must have drawn it out. And I squint down the riverbed.
It looks like maybe it's been damaged. It's hard to tell. You'd need to do something about it if you wanted to try to get it in.
Do I still have my unseen servant? Do I still have 7?
I believe you're probably down to your last hour?
Okay.
Maybe? But he could still be around.
Okay, I will attempt to use my unseen servant to guide the raft back to shore.
Okay.
If possible.
Actually, then, in this case, I will need you to make me a spellcraft roll. And make it at -5, please.
Wait, -5 or +5?
Well, a 5-point penalty. You're trying to roll below it, but...
So a +5 is my roll. No.
Okay, you fail. All right. You are the only one to know this, for your servant is unseen. but the summoning magics that brought it here and would normally on the prime material world have forced it to your will to serve you, it now begins to defy those bindings, and the creature disobeys you and refuses to go into the river.
Yeah, Finna goes, "What? Wait, what's the meaning of this? You do not disobey your master. Go into the waters."
It refuses.
What? Oh. Your servant.
My unseen servant, he's not taking my command.
That's odd. They shouldn't have a will of their own.
It must be this infernal plane, giving it its will.
Well, okay, so these pigments that I have, or had, is supposed to be enough for a 100-foot painting turn into a 1,000 cubic foot object. Did I use that for the raft, or should we say I used it?
I imagined that while you didn't use all of the pigment, because even a very, very large raft wouldn't be that total square footage, I did imagine that you would only be able to make one raft big enough to carry all of you,
right,
with the pigments that you had.
That seems reasonable. And I hold up the little vial of pigment, and I look at it and say, it's probably not enough for another one. I'm not sure.
Might be enough to repair that raft, though, if you could get it ashore and fix it.
Is it stuck on those rocks? I peer down the river again.
Currently, it's stuck, but it could come loose at any time.
We need something to bring it in. Maybe I can...
I turn to the group. Grappling hooks, rope. Do any of your men have them? Any of you?
Yes, I do, and I move forward and take out my rope of entanglement. Normally, it gets people.
How far will that stretch?
So, let's see. So the rope's entanglement can go up to 20 feet.
20 feet. That's close. That's close. Do you want to make me a luck roll?
Yes.
Could we get closer to it if we moved further down the river bend?
Along the shore is not going to make a difference. You would need to go beyond the lip of the shore to get to close any gap to the raft.
Because it's too far out. Right.
I got 12.
And your
luck
luck
is
is
13.
13, right? Oh, that's just enough. Okay.
Oh.
So actually, what I'll say is, all right, that'll work. Okay. Inquisitor Virgil, you pull out your enchanted rope, and with basically the command of your mind, you can make the end of it basically lash out and grab a hold, wrap around basically anything that you want. You try this with the raft once and then twice, but the raft is too heavy, too wet, too slippery. You can't quite get a purchase somewhere to grab it on. And then along comes Brother Mark Maple, who looses an arrow from his bow into the corner of the raft, which on your third attempt gives you something to grab on. And with the help of the men, you can pull the raft ashore.
Excellent. I command all the men available to help get the boat to shore. We need it.
Very well. Finot, are you doing anything while they do this? Or are you watching in silence?
Is Dante involved in this?
Sure. You're all. I mean, I don't know if he's doing manual labor, but he's watching.
As Saint Froscus is trying to throw his rope out, I quickly bring out another little vial that is shining silvery, and seeing then how Brother Mark Maple steps in to help, I decide to put it away, and it seems now they're doing well.
Very well. So I take that means, Finot, you're not saying anything as the men begin to grab the raft and pull it ashore.
Well, I'm not talking to them. I kind of wanted to sidle up next to Dante and talk to him in a hushed tone.
Then go ahead. You guys have your hushed tone conversation.
Yeah, I basically go up to Dante and I'm like, I say, Dante, I do not recall, do you speak Elven?
No. I look a bit embarrassed at this, but no, it's what I'm not... I haven't come across many elves, except for the prince's hunting companions.
Well, then you did not overhear the contents of the conversation between St. Frostkiss and his father.
No, but I noticed you found a bit of mirth in there.
Well, the mirth was over him claiming that he makes the world a better place through torment and torture. But, more importantly, it turns out, or it seems as though our friend here is a hypocrite. The word hedge mage was used, hedge wizard, meaning at some point in his past, he was an untrained wizard.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yes.
I wonder what made him turn the other way.
I don't know. But this is valuable information we can hold on to. Protect ourselves if necessary.
Oh, you mean as some sort of leverage?
Yes. Not exactly sure how, but...
Listen, I what you said before, that they would try and kill us, I don't think they would. I think they desperately just want to bring you back to their country. Now, what you need to know is that from what I've heard, it would be a great shame on our country if it turns out that somehow someone is involved in these, well, heretical movements. If the person you were meeting with is someone that somehow represents the crown, that information just can't get out. And as a friend, of course, I wouldn't have you in the hands of the papal theocracy. What are your thoughts on this? Where do you want to go? I mean, how can... I don't mind them going back empty-handed. I would not try to resort to any sort of combat with these people, but if we can separate ourselves from them...
Even if we are able to return to Terragastia, which I guarantee you we are not, I would not go. There is an order in the city of Sigil that I seek, known as the Athar. It is said that they are the ones who seek knowledge beyond the divine. They seek to uncover what is the source of the gods' powers themselves. They, like me, believe the gods are not gods, but just mortals with great power.
Yes.
I think they are the ones who would have knowledge of the secret math. But I have a small scheme that I am planning or thinking about. No one will be harmed, but it should give at least me, and I hope you too, Dante, a chance to escape once we arrive in Sigil, or once we open the portal.
Well...
Alright, well, at this moment, I'm going to say that a sudden shout, or a sudden noise, interrupts this quiet conversation. As the men diligently pull the raft up out of the water, you can see where it's been damaged, but potentially is repairable. However, one of the men starts staring around him, eyes as wide as pie plates, with a look of absolute confusion and terror on his face, as he just, suddenly looks like he doesn't recognize where he is and begins to freak out. Absolutely freak out. The other three men who were also pulling the raft out of the water, they also stop, and they are also looking around curiously, but are not freaking out. They're just confused.
They're not in the water, right?
No, but they got their hands.
I look at their
when
hands. Yes.
Yep, their hands are bloody. Their hands are bloody as they pulled the raft out of the water.
Fools, drop the rope!
Okay, well, they... Actually, some of them have already dropped the rope. It seems the three of them, at least the three of them who are confused, seem to have forgotten exactly what they were doing in the first place and are just kind of looking around at each other and you guys very, very curiously. So one of them is... and then, of course, there's the guy who's completely lost his shit and is just... Where am I?
Jesus Christ. Is that the only one that's screaming?
Only one is screaming. One of the four men who...
I cast sleep on him.
Okay, let's see if he makes a save.
Shut up, you fool!
Okay, yep, actually, alright, so he's running around screaming, like, where are we? What has happened to us? And you're just silence, fool, cast your spell. And he just falls unconscious on the ground.
No one else touched the bloody waters of the Styx. It'll race your mind.
I frowned a little, as I, of course, had been very careful not to touch any water over my end of the rope, but I'm like, damn it! Oh, Milton, this is not good. We don't have time to...
No, it is not good. Not good at all. Are you all right, men? I try to speak to the ones that looked surprised.
All right, well, they turn to you. One of them turns to you and says, well, I feel okay. I feel kind of uncomfortable. He's like scratching, and it's like, why do I hurt? I'm sorry, have we met?
Yes, I am Milton Vespers. I am your commander.
Oh.
You are in a strange place, but you are together with us, and we will get back home. Please do not be concerned.
Well, where's home?
Home?
Where am I from? Actually, you know what? Who am I? Do you know? And actually, Milton, do you?
I do not.
Did you bother to learn this man's name?
I have not learned any of their names. There has been no point. They always die anyways.
Well, will anyone ever learn them again? Are they gone forever now?
If our world truly is gone, then so are their names. Everything they were, it's lost forever.
Like so much else.
I try to comfort the man somehow, and try to just make sure that they're comfortable, at least, and try to give them something to do. It is good to have a task.
I move up to Sir Vespers and I say, maybe if you just act with conviction, you could give them names for now, and they look like they will believe you.
Yes, that is a good thought. Come up with some good names for them.
Okay, well, that's fine. You don't need to think about it just yet. But in truth, yes, they will basically do whatever you suggest because they don't have any other reason not to. So they will follow you. They will, short of you asking them to do something probably insane, chances are they'll just, they'll follow along with the rest of you. Of course, the other men are completely terrified by this experience, and none of them seem to want to go anywhere near that water. Even though now that you do have this raft, which, I will say that Brother Mark Mabel can probably set about fixing it. Although he is going to be extra careful and not touch any of that water.
At this point, I'll step forward and say, this is the situation, no matter what you remember or don't. We are all going to be going on this boat. If you don't wish to come with us on the boat, that is your choice, but I assure you, you will meet a swift death otherwise, staying around here. So it'll be up to you. Either come with us, and possibly find a safe place, or stay here and die. We do not have time, I'm afraid, to debate this matter.
They all nod in silent agreement. They will do as you suggest. However, what I will say is Brother Mark Maple starts to swear. He is having some difficulty repairing this raft, and he starts, swearing in Elven and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, "This would be hard enough if I could touch it, let alone having to use ropes and sticks to try to put it together." And at this point, Dante, you're sort of, watching him work and whatever. You glance over his shoulder at the smoky river beyond, and you see something that you didn't see there before. There are two small, glowing pinpoints of red light slowly emerging from the smoke of the river, coming in your direction. What do you do?
Brother Mark Maple, watch out, there's something there. And I point.
Well, he looks over his shoulder quickly, stands up, and starts backing away. What is that? What is that? As you see now, the two pinpoints of light become glowing red eyes in this silhouetted figure that begins to slowly glide out of the smoking river. Standing in a boat, small skiff there, you can see, is an emaciated, skeletal figure dressed in rotting brown and gray robes. Skeletal to the point where he still seems to have almost paper-thin brown skin wrapping, but it's almost tearing away like bark. And he pulls silently, piloting his craft down the river Styx towards the direction of your shore. What do you do?
Is it a big boat?
It looks like it could probably carry at least half of your number, if not more.
I frown and I look to Pickett, eager to gauge his reaction. He seems the most versed in the horrors of this place. If he looks panicked, maybe I'll look panicked. But if he doesn't...
let me judge this with a religion check.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nope.
Nope.
That's my second 20 in a row. Damn it.
Ouch. Yeah, you don't know what to make of this thing.
No. I do look concerned and fearful. And I'm kind of stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, I also step back.
I cross my arms and I say, well, we could use that boat, though it wouldn't fit all of us.
I mean, it would be tight. It would be tight. You could leave a few men behind.
And is this entity and the boat making a direct course for us? Or direction?
Yeah, pretty close. And meandering in your direction, at least.
I start rummaging through my haversack and I pull out my scroll of mending, and I'm like, hurry.
Oh, okay, cool. Then
and I can mend up to 6 cubic feet of material. I don't know if that is enough.
I'll make me a luck roll. That's gonna be close.
Okay, that's a D20 or D10. What was that?
D20, and you were trying to get beneath your luck, which I believe was 8.
Yeah, mine was low. Nope. No.
Between you guys, it's close. You've repaired it, but as to whether or not it's seaworthy, that is questionable at best.
Can I make a religion check at this point?
You sure could. Go ahead.
I got a 13 under 17.
Okay. While you may not know the name of what this entity might be, you have, there are certainly, tales. I mean, the Solarian religion is kind of pared down as far as the planes are concerned. However, there's certainly the idea of, boatmen of the River of the Dead or something like that, that this could be, a guide to the realm of the deceased. Something like that would make sense. That would be sort of the closest correlation that your mind could make.
I frown a little and remark, I do not believe this thing intentionally means to harm us. But how's the boat coming?
Well, I look over it and it seems like you've done a little bit of work there. Both Mark Maple and Pickett, but I could adjust it, I think, with the rest of my colours. We just need to let it dry first.
I don't know if we have time. I don't want that thing coming anywhere near us.
I don't think we have a choice.
Yes, you won't have much of a choice. In a matter of minutes, it looks like it will be sort of among you, or at least nearby, at the shores of the river where you are.
Come now, it's one alone undead being. How bad could it be?
I nod, I look to Milton. Be ready just in case, Milton, but let us see what it has to say.
I hold my amulet versus the undead, and I grip it tightly, ready to make use of it should it become necessary.
Very well. Then, in a matter of minutes, this figure pulls his skiff to be there among you, a mere 20 feet from where you're standing on the shores of the river Styx. It steps off the boat onto the shore and gestures with a hand for anyone who would wish to enter onto his craft.
Who are you?
He looks at you and says nothing.
Where do you intend to take us?
You hear a voice in your mind. You all hear a voice in your mind.
The Styx will go. I can take you.
For what cost?
What you can pay determines where you go.
Can you take all of us on this boat?
He says nothing.
Well, that's not very reassuring. I look at the others.
Yeah.
Does anyone know anything of
I
this
certainly don't.
character?
No.
Do you have religion, Dante? I don't know if you do.
I don't think I do.
Milton, what do you think?
I do not trust this creature. He obviously serves some function here, but I do not believe that following him will get us to where we want to go.
I have ancient history, but that does not help, I suppose.
That's not going to help you in this situation. Sorry. All right. Well, ultimately, gentlemen, you have a choice to make. You can trust this entity to attempt to take you where you want to go and pay him what you think that's going to be, or you can try your luck with the less than trustworthy raft. It is your call.
I mean, I'm not sure how many more improvements I can do on this. I look over the raft and...
Well, if you would like to make me one more artistic ability roll, you can attempt to repair it, if you would like.
It would be...
I assume you don't. Your option is like you'd rather not go on this skiff. So you're probably trying to get this fixed, right?
Yes, though I am a bit worried about the rocks that are now... that apparently has Cat caught on, so maybe I would, with the rest of my colors, try to make more sort of oars and sticks for the men to help out and navigate the river together and poke away at such things.
Very well. Make me one more artistic ability roll.
Right. And I do imagine it would dry rather quickly here in this hot, dry heat.
Yes, it should be a matter of minutes.
I remark, if even Pickett is unwilling to deal with this infernal being, that certainly says something, doesn't it, Sir Milton? No, thank you. We do not require your assistance. Isn't that right, Pickett?
I have learned not to make deals or deal with any entities from beyond that you do not fully understand.
Dante, what did you roll?
As I talk, I move over to the rafts and I bring out the colors again and I try to make some adjustments and make it better and also start sort of drawing out some oars on the side. I roll a 6 under 16, yes.
So you've beaten it by 10. Actually, you feel pretty confident that you fixed this. You feel pretty good that it's at least as seaworthy as it was when you first drew it.
I think this should be fine, though I do admit the waters seem slightly more perilous than what we've navigated so far. I made these extra sets of roars to poke away at the rocks and things for our men. I say this on the side to sort of the leaders, not in front of all the men.
Good thinking. Yes, we shall be vigilant during the journey, and then we surely will reach to where we are going.
Indeed, it is a risk we must take.
And I have an idea of something that might protect us further as we travel down the river.
Yes?
So I have a spell. I'm wondering if this will function, Rob. My scroll of Layman's Tiny Hut. Is that something that I could cast on the raft?
Ooh, interesting. Does Leoman's Hut say that if it's stationary, or is it centered on the caster?
It, around his person. It says half is above the ground, half is below, and up to 7 other man-sized creatures can fit into it. So it doesn't say that it has to be on a stationary point. Well, I mean, I assume that the stationary point would be the raft. But yeah, it doesn't say anything about not being able to cast it on a stationary point that is in motion.
Okay.
So, seeing as though the very planes themselves are in constant motion, so which constitutes a much larger stationary point. But yeah, it will protect us from rain, dust, sandstorms, anything up to hurricane force. So it will protect us from being splashed by the waters of the River Styx.
Okay, that sounds like a really good use of your spell. So, this boatman is standing there patiently waiting, but I take it that you are all refusing his offer of passage, yes?
Indeed.
Indeed.
All right, very well. Then he, without a word, just sort of steps back into his boat and without sparing you another glance, shoves off from the side of the River Styx and begins to pull his way downriver, leaving you all with Dante's seemingly repaired raft.
Okay. How many of us are there total here?
Well, let's see. There are the 5 PCs, if you include Brother Barkmaple. And then there were 8 men, right? Or 9 men. There were 9 men. One of whom is now unconscious.
Yeah. And how long... Wait, hold on. Let me see how long my sleep spell.
And three of whom are, have completely forgotten who they are and where they're from.
Yeah. And just so you know, my sleep spell lasts for 30 rounds.
All right, he's still asleep. He's fine. That's 30 minutes. He's still asleep.
Yeah. Okay. So, I basically turn to the group as like, I have a scroll here that I think will help us on our way down the river and keep us from being splashed by the waters.
Oh.
But only 7 of us will be able to fit within its perimeter at a time.
What will it do?
It is a spell called Layman's Tiny Hut, and will create a sphere within which 7 of us can safely reside and protect us against the elements.
Huh.
It will also be quite comfortable inside, away from this oppressive heat.
Excellent, we can certainly need the rest, I say, and I start handing out the oars and the sticks to the men.
Very well.
Reginald, Jonah,
Okay.
Conrad, I said to the 3 men who have forgotten their names. And I've now given them names.
My name's Conrad, sir?
Yes.
All right, sir.
And I start handing out the...
What do I do with this, sir?
And you are Jonah.
Yes, that's right. That sounds familiar, right? Jonah. Yes, that sounds right. Right, sir. Jonah is me.
I smirk and I nod approvingly.
Okay, well, Jonah and Conrad?
Jonah, Conrad, and Reginald.
And Reginald, they are, it's actually almost in a weird kind of way charming to see, while all of the other men are, without a doubt, this is the worst day of everyone's life, right? You all came to hell today. They don't actually see it that way, because it's the first day of their lives, and they don't have anything to compare it to, even in hell. It's kind of interesting when you think about it.
Seems like a blissful existence.
But anyway, but these men joyfully take the poles, and they will basically edge the raft into the water, and then help you all on one at a time. The group of leaders, so to speak, can stand in the middle around Lord Pickett, and the other men can shove off the shore, and you can begin to float down the stinking, bloody, wine-colored waters of the River Styx.
Just to clarify, so I can choose any color I want.
Okay.
For the exterior surface, because it basically creates an opaque sphere.
Okay.
Which cannot be seen into, but can be seen out of. It's completely transparent from the inside. So I choose the same color as the water of the river. That way, as we're moving down, it'll sort of maybe appear to be just like a giant bubble of some kind, perhaps.
Yes, and that does occur. There are large, scabby, bubbling, congealing masses that get caught on the rocks and sort of almost like seaweed wash up, over the sides of your raft and all that sort of stuff. It's really, really, really disturbing. But within the magics, go ahead.
One more question. What was the size of the raft itself?
I believe Dante, he had made it enough that 15 men could stand on it. So I imagined it was probably like 20 by 20.
Okay, so then this is a 15-foot diameter, which I'll make the diameter of this sort of off on one corner. That way there's plenty of room around two sides for the men. Mm-hmm. And then okay. All
right, very well. Very well. And actually once Lord Pickett erects this dome of magical energy over the cart, the temperature immediately changes, and it is comfortable inside, isn't it? Like a spring day or something like that?
Yeah, it would be, because what's the temperature? What's the ambient temperature outside?
Between 100 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
So it's going to, it'll fluctuate between 70 and 80 degrees on the inside.
Nice. It's like a warm summer day.
I feel like the sweat is just running down, and it's almost cold now because I'm so sweaty from this hellscape. And I look at the old blood sort of drying on my robes from when we waded across the river, and I'm like, well, this is not too bad, actually.
I am mostly silent during this journey, but I do briefly do an aside to Milton, just lowering my tone, and I very quickly say just a few words to him. Sir Milton.
Yes, sir.
It might nearly be the end of this, one way or the other. I'm willing, believe it or not, to give Pickett at least a chance to do the right thing, but if he does not, it is vital we get him back. Not for his petty crimes, I acknowledge. In the large scheme of things now they are irrelevant, but because of his knowledge that could be vital to saving our kingdom. You understand, yes?
Agreed, yes, we have our orders. And let us make sure that we get these men back to their families, hopefully. Hopefully we can all return.
Indeed. Again, I will give him a chance, but I imagine he will refuse. We need to be ready.
Yes, I am ready.
All right, very well. So as your gentlemen begin to make your way down this river, actually, do you want to tell me what your ultimate destination is on this map? Which of these tributaries you're aiming for, so to speak?
I believe we would want the one straight going to the road, because then hopefully we can go to the road and then go to the portal, as opposed to the other way around.
So the one that goes in the shadow of the castle.
Yeah, between the castle and then the place where we were told the portal, that fingery cauldron thing.
Mm-hmm. Very well. All right. Fair enough. That should actually prove fairly simple to find. Okay. So as you begin to pull your way silently now down this bubbling, stinking river, your men doing their best to keep away from the splashing waters, and the protective bubble of the layman's tiny hunt does in fact protect you not just from the memory-sapping waters, but also from the harsh and invasive winds of the plains of Baator. But as you begin your slow progression along the river Styx, there in the distance, first you hear it, and then you see it. There is a howling, a terrible howling that sweeps across the hills and rivers and plains of this place from the southeast of where you are. And at first, the vision plays tricks on your imagination, for you could not imagine such a structure. At first, you took it for a gigantic mountain range, and then, like you said, you mistook it for a city. And now that it is finally coming more and more into focus, you can see that there is a structure to the southeast of where you are headed, ever closer to, and it is some manner of titanic castle. It seems to be some strange maniacal jumbling of iron and marble, granite, basalt, and all jumbled together in some manner of infernal logic. And as the images of this structure come more and more into focus, you can see that they seem to be constructed of bodies, titanic bodies, all piled on top of one another. In fact, in some cases, even chained together or with enormous iron spikes and chains being thrust through their bodies. And in some cases, these bodies seem to be even impaled, or in some even worse cases, violated in the most horrible and intimate ways by the towers and bridges and structures that comprise this infernal citadel, larger than the largest mountain on the largest prime material world you can imagine, ringed in a wall of mountains higher than any that you have seen on the mortal world. And in some cases you can see where these gigantic stone people, figures, titans, gods, whatever they were, have even been carved away and carved into the structures of bridges and towers. And in some cases you can even see rows of lit windows comprising arms and necks and bodies and the like. This entire structure is some sort of horrific infernal monument to the rape of dead gods. Behold, Lord Bell's castle.
Whatever those things were, they must have been piled there by something even bigger.
What infernal mind could have created such a structure? This map that you have does not do it justice.
I do not like the look of that.
At best, it could scrape at the edges of your imagination as you stare horrified at the most horrific monument that infernal minds could have constructed.
Yeah, am I aware of its connection to the idea of gods who have died?
I think you are starting to come to those conclusions. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would. Finnet would say, "Look, Inquisitor. Look, Paladin. Behold the power of gods. They die just like we do."
And they go to hell just like we do too, it seems.
I don't see why your revelation is shocking, Pickett.
Because you place your faith in a god who says this is how things are, and all who defy us, my creed, deserve torment and death. They are heretics, but your god is no different than any other squabbling, scrabbling mortal seeking out a pathetic existence in the multiverse.
On the contrary.
He is no better than any other.
On the contrary. Our god is a true god. All this shows me is that the gods your sorts worship, or seek service from, are just as infernal as treacherous as I have always believed. This, to me, is exactly why your sorts and the magics and the services you try and outdo each other with, this is what it leads to. Death, torment, and misery, even on a celestial level. And I look to Milton. And I nod. I am not perturbed at all. If anything, this is just strengthening my resolve to get out of here.
Yes.
Do I have any understanding of the diminishment of power here for a priest, or especially since now my spells are starting to change?
I mean, I think it would be fair that you could suspect that somehow clerical magic is going to be altered, maybe not the same way, but in some manner, here, the way that arcane magic is. But I think the Inquisitor has been done a pretty good job of keeping his cards pretty close to his chest, and maybe not have let on that his powers are slightly diminished here, or whatever.
Has there been anything like even because the sword, the Holy Avenger sword, does it appear different? Does it always kind of glow and sing?
To be fair, you did do that detect magic sweep, a very careful detect magic sweep of everyone in the party. So I think that is fair to kind of recap that a little bit. The Inquisitor's golden sword, that did glow. That did glow with a, maybe not as healthy a magic it would have been on the prime material plane, but still, it's magical. It's still magical. It's still fiery golden sword, that whole thing. However, Sir Milton's sword, his Holy Avenger, as opposed to the Sunblade that the Inquisitor carries, his Holy Avenger has that sort of disenchantment aura on it. It was magic, but it isn't here.
Oh.
Same thing with his armor and stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
so his sword is not magic here. However, the scimitar on the druid's belt, that still retains its magic.
Yeah.
And I think there are still a few things, like your cloak, for instance, it still has a residual magic on it. But Dante's bracers and rings, for instance, have been disenchanted. There's been a few other things that are turned off.
It looks
here.
Yeah. So I kind of smirk and look back to Frostkiss and I go, if that's so, then do tell why. Does that great holy sword dedicated to Solaris suddenly not function in this land?
The last I checked, I look at it, it still cleaves through evil. Our swords still do what they're intended to do.
Yes, as does my dagger. But does that... But the magic, the blessing of your god no longer lays upon his sword.
Well, why would it? We are as
If
far
he is so
from our
all-powerful...
God as we could be. In the very epitome, it seems, of hell. Why would he have power here? And I just sort of shake my head.
He is the great supreme god. He should have power everywhere. If he is so great as you say, nothing should be able to block his power, his essence.
I shake my head and just remark, Milton, you talk with him, I'm done. We have something to be doing. We can save the theological debates for later when you are home.
Well, Sir Milton, actually the three men who you've just renamed, they kind of look to you and they sort of, cast a thumb in Pickett's direction. And they're like, should we throw him overboard, sir?
I am tempted.
No.
I am tempted, but he has proven useful, and we still have a journey left. Yes, we must find our way back home, and we shall.
That's... One of them points towards Lord Bell's castle. That's not where we're going, is it, sir?
No, it is not. We want to go as far away from there as possible once we're done with what we need to do. Do not worry. The river, it's taking them, taking who they were, their identities. I never knew them. I never took the time to get to know them. They were disposable. I've led men before, and many of them never come back. I should have learned their names. I've given them new ones, but I wonder who they truly were. Did they have families, friends, children? What will become of them? This truly is hell.
Can you remind us how we know the name Lord Bell?
I believe the Spinagon, or sorry, you called him an imp. The imp in the beginning, I think he dropped his name, and I believe that the Pillar of Skulls said that the portal you were seeking was in the southwest shadow of Lord Bell's castle. So I think we've dropped that enough that you can kind of put two and two together.
But we don't have any inkling of who this Lord Bell is.
I don't think you've specifically asked who he was. No. Okay, so, but again, as these arguments progress, the water still carries you further and further. And I'm going to say, because the druid has the best, he actually has direction sense, I'm just going to let him roll. And he rolls extremely well.
Yes, I do too.
Oh, you do? Would you like to roll too, as well, and back him up?
Sure. Though, As the castle is drifting by and these tiresome, very uninteresting religious discussions are going on, I'm artistically sort of trying to memorize this place because I want to draw a painting of that castle later on.
Oh, very well. It will probably... I imagine this boat ride will take at least an hour, if not more. You will have plenty of time to study it, and if you wish, even sketch it.
Yeah, I may do that, actually. Yeah.
Very well. Then you can begin to sketch this. And actually, with your extreme eyesight, you would have a better vision of it anyway than the rest. It is indeed a terrifying structure of jutting towers, thick gates, sharp angles, barbed walls, spiked fences, all of which seem now to be ringed with skulls. Many which look human, but many more which look to be titanic monsters, perhaps dragon skulls and the like, each impaled on its own iron barb that makes up this 30-foot high iron gate that sits on the top of the mountains that ring this castle.
Impossible.
This is the most defensible place you have ever seen. You cannot even imagine what sort of army could imagine assaulting this place, let alone taking it. But all throughout, it gives off a terrible aura, a palpable aura of danger, hatred, pain, suffering, and dark ecstasy.
I have found myself on a most dangerous quest indeed. One through the perilous lands of perdition itself. I know not whether I should pity or envy those men who have had their entire lives taken by the memory-sapping waters of the river Styx, for these hellish visions may be easier to bear without the context of a former life. I, however, do not have the luxury of a blissful ignorance, and I know that in my heart a part of me belongs in this place, along with the rest of the damned. Yet even now, after all this time and all the hell that I have been through, even stood in the shadow cast by the very monuments to atrocity, I still believe in the light of Solaris. And even without the wisdom of my holy blade to guide me, still I will prove that I can be worthy for the sun's glory to shine upon my heart once more. I gladly endure all the torments of hell itself to prove my faith. This episode features music from the enhanced soundtrack of the classic video game Planescape Torment.
Created by Black Isle Studios and provided courtesy of the brilliant folks at Beamdog.
Visit Beamdog.com to access digital downloads of more classic RPG video games, remastered gaming soundtracks, and other great role-playing resources.
This episode of To Baator and Back features music from
Atrium Carceri and Cities Lost Broadcast.
Off the album,
Black Corner Den.
and from
The Cryo Chamber collaboration.
Off the album,
Nyarlathotep.
and made available courtesy of their label Cryo Chamber. Visit cryochamber.bandcamp.com for more dark ambient.
Various music and Foley content used in this program has been made available for use under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. But extra special thanks is due to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech, David Feslian at feslianstudios.com, and the many inspired folks over at zapsplat.com and freesound.org. The Black Spire RPG campaign episodes simply would not be possible without the use of these resources.
If you're curious for more, find Black Spire Studios on Facebook or visit Robert Randle's site, thereliquum.com, a blog about art and magic, comics and gaming, and how they all tie together, for more information concerning his various projects. You can follow him on Twitter at thereliquum and his actual play podcast at Black Spire Pod.
And releasing on the weeks opposite to Black Spire, you can hear Rob and Aaron on their other podcast, Adventure Hook, where each episode these two comic book pros develop a random story idea for game masters to incorporate into their own RPGs. Find Adventure Hook on Facebook and Twitter, and also be sure to follow Aaron using his handle at allmancampbell. And be sure to submit new ideas for their random D20 tables using the hashtag #NewAdventureHook.
And of course, be sure to visit redmoonroleplaying.com to listen to more dark actual play RPG adventure,
Including such games as Cult Divinity Lost,
The Curse of Strahd,
Vampire the Masquerade, and a lot of other games and one-shots.